I am going to discuss about the special characteristics of the Buddha. Although we follow him and worship and do some offerings, still we have no clear understanding about the nature of the Buddhahood or the enlightenment. The Buddha has mentioned this. I think you have heard earlier that there are four things in this world that we never get the clear picture. We can study throughout our life. Even then, there are many things that we cannot understand. Only four things. In Anguttara Nikaya, chapter 4, he says, Buddha Visaya, Loka Visaya, Sattva Visaya, Jnana Visaya. These four things. The first thing is the nature of the Buddha's enlightenment, or how he gained his enlightenment. We study, we think, but we never get the clear picture of the Buddha's enlightenment because of the limited knowledge of our understanding. Then the second one is Loka Visaya, the world system, universes, living beings. We can study. Even then, still we do not know the real nature of this world or this globe where we exist, or the nature of different kinds of living beings who exist in this world. So what about the other world system, other universes? So his advice is, don't waste your time only for these things, because there is no limit. There are many other important things for you to learn. The third one is Kamma Visaya. We believe there is some sort of mental energy that manipulates. We experience good and bad result or the effect. But we cannot understand how we accumulate these karmic energies and where do they exist, how they appear from time to time to affect us. How can they remain for a long period? Still we cannot understand. But we believe that it is true. The last one is Jnana Visaya. Jnana means the psychic power, a development of the mind. Those meditators gain some sort of power, mental energy or psychic power to perform certain unusual or supernatural things. But many people cannot understand how they use this psychic power or this mental energy to perform this kind of supernatural things. So until we develop our own mind, we won't be able to understand. These are the four things. The nature of the Buddha's enlightenment, the nature of the world systems and the living beings, and nature of karmic energy, and the nature of psychic power or jhana. But we gain certain knowledge, but not very clear, because our minds are deluded, and we maintain our own concept, belief, ideas, not knowing whether they are right or wrong. That is why we cannot understand many things. Through our studies and meditation, what we try to do actually to unload or to cleanse many things that we have accumulated in our mind. When we analyze, we can understand many of our beliefs, ideas are wrong because of our emotion, craving, misunderstanding. We have accepted certain beliefs and ideas. But one day, when we gain more knowledge and understanding, we will come to know that our beliefs are wrong. No reality in our belief. So now let us come back to the Buddha. Usually, historians, philosophers, psychologists, scientists, free thinkers, or religious people, even those who have no religions also, respect the Buddha. But their concept of the nature or the nature of his enlightenment differ. They have different opinions. Even that Western philosopher who had no religion, who has gone against every religion, Bertrand Russell, he says, amongst the followers of all those religions, I respect only one man. He is the Buddha. Why? He did not make any false statement about the beginning or the origin of this world, because he knew what this world is. But many others, the founders of other religions, made false statement. He says, this world was created by so and so at such and such time, but later scientists and others found out their sayings are wrong. But the Buddha did not say anything about the beginning. He said there is no beginning. That is true. So even those agnostics who have no religion also respect the Buddha. But their belief is the Buddha is a great thinker. They cannot understand more than that. Many others say Buddha is a great philosopher. And some others say he is a very holy man, perfect human being. But the nature of the Buddha's enlightenment is not there. To understand this, we must know how he started and what he has done to gain this enlightenment. Then we can understand little bit. After gaining his enlightenment, so one day, when he was going somewhere, he met another religious teacher. Having seen this person is very serene and very appealing to the mind, serenity of this person influenced his mind. Then he asked, "May I know who is your teacher?" Then the answer given by the Buddha, "Name acharyo atti, sabiso me navidyati, sadeva kasmin lokasmin, natti me patipukka." Acharya means teacher. Name acharyo atti, I never had any teacher to teach me how to gain my enlightenment or how to become Buddha. That means he did not learn anything from another teacher to gain his enlightenment. But all the other existing teachers, see, they are the sons of God, messenger of God, or prophets, sent by somebody, but not their own. The Buddha says, "This is my own experience. There is no God behind me to tell me anything, to reveal anything." After that, he explained, without any external support or influence or inspiration, how he gained it. Then pointed out how he completed 10 perfections or 10 paramitas, life after life. How he has sacrificed his worldly pleasures, kingdoms, his life, for the benefit of others, for the sake of this enlightenment. How he had eradicated existing mental defilements, mental impurities, what we are having. We have all our mental impurities. Our minds are not pure, not clean. Although we can control them for the time being, our minds are very dirty. But sometimes we cannot control our mind. Even well-educated people suddenly become very violent and aggressive, very cruel, because no controlling power. Then our greed and jealousy, our selfishness, our crazy attitude for indulgence are very deep, very deeply rooted in the mind. Because of these evil forces, we commit a lot of bad things to disturb others. That is why I told you, our minds are not pure, not clean. By learning or studying a religious way of life, we try to control our mind. Although our anger is there, our jealousy is there, without allowing them to influence our mind to do bad things, we control that mind. That is called discipline, mental discipline. Although some others come and irritate us, we use our mental energy to control the mind, not to show our anger, not to become aggressive. That is mental discipline. When there are certain things which create temptation, many people cannot control their mind. And those who have courage to control their mind at that time and maintain some sort of mental discipline. So the Buddha, he explained what a big battle he had to control his mind, to control his word, to control his bodily action, to discipline his mind, words and physical body. No one can do this within one lifetime, even 100 years' time. Life after life, he went on reducing and reducing and reducing these weaknesses. Then on the other hand, by cultivating all the other virtues and good qualities, by developing more patience, more tolerance, more kindness and more sympathy, by reducing selfishness, he reduced his greed, craving. We cannot do this within one lifetime. Because we have accumulated, we developed these things life after life. Mind is used to these things. When we try to control our mind, the mind goes mad. That is why some meditators get into trouble. Mind cannot tolerate this. Then some sort of bodily reaction or mental disturbances also take place. But those who have done little bit of training, then the mind can tolerate. So he went on reducing all the evil forces from the mind. Again, cultivating all the good qualities in the mind. Then purifying his mind. Three things. So without reducing evil forces, no one can cultivate good qualities and virtues. Without cultivating good qualities, no one can purify the mind. When you read certain Jataka stories, previous birth stories, we can understand what a big battle he had to train himself and to gain more and more knowledge and understanding and wisdom. How he continued. Now this is another important thing that many people cannot understand. Now within this lifetime, we try to train our mind. We try to maintain some sort of healthy mind. We try to reduce evil forces from our mind. Then, in the next birth, very easily we get the chance to continue because of the experience we had during the previous birth. The knowledge that we gain through our understanding, by knowing the Dhamma, the knowledge that you accommodate within this lifetime never disappears when we die. In the next birth, we will be able to understand the Dhamma easily because of that experience. And now you can understand how he started to practice, to fulfill all the 10 perfections and paramitas. Then how he went on developing more and more life after life until he complete all his duties. Now the mind is ready. So many misconceptions, misunderstanding, wrong belief, wrong ideas are not active in that mind. But in our mind, all these are very active. That is why it is difficult for us to understand the truth. When we try to understand something, some other ideas that we have accommodated earlier interrupt. This is the problem we are facing. Even then, during his final birth, he too had certain weaknesses. So that is why he had to work very hard, even within that lifetime. Although he has completed all his duties, gained knowledge and understanding, he could not gain enlightenment very easily. So after working very hard, when the mind was completely pure, very energetic, unshakable mental force, finally he gained this enlightenment. What is this enlightenment? When we are in a dark room, we cannot see anything. But we create our imagination. There must be certain things here and there, but we cannot see them. We are not sure. When suddenly light appeared, then we can see everything very clearly. In the first sermon, Dhammacakka Sutta, after gaining this enlightenment, the Buddha used these words, Aloko Udapadi. Now the brightness arose, appeared. When the brightness is there, there is no darkness. Then can see things properly. So when that brightness is pure, if the person got the knowledge and understanding, then that person can see things clearly. Regarding the life and the world and the matters and energies, anything that which exists. This is the little bit of the nature of his enlightenment. So what I am going to explain tonight is this. In his enlightenment, there are 6 extraordinary characteristics. Amongst all these thousands of various kind of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, there are 6 characteristics in his enlightenment. They are called Sat Asadharana Jnana. Asadharana means that which cannot compare with others. There is nobody in this world who gained the same knowledge and wisdom. Many others, the founders of other religions, Arahantas, Pacceka Buddhas also gain knowledge, wisdom, understanding and enlightenment also. But in their enlightenment, you cannot find these special characteristics. Only in the Samma Sambuddha, Supreme Enlightened Buddha. That is why he is called Samma Sambuddha, Supreme Enlightened One. And what are those six? The first one is called Indriya Paro Pariyatti Jnana. Indriya means senses. We have five senses. The Buddha also had the same five senses. But in the Buddha's five senses, we can find these characteristics: Saddha, Sati, Samadhi, Virya and Panya. But in our senses, we cannot find these good qualities. That is why we always misuse, abuse, or we become slaves to our senses. What is the meaning of these five? Saddha means confidence. It's very difficult for us to develop confidence. We believe, but our beliefs are changeable. Today we believe something, tomorrow we give up. So that is not confidence. Confidence means through our understanding and experience and maturity and knowledge, when the mind is fully convinced, so according to our own conviction, we accept that it is true. After that, there is nothing for us to change. It is absolute, unchangeable. This is called confidence. The Buddha did not encourage us to develop faith at once, because the faith or belief we develop at the beginning. Later, changes take place. Because we have accepted, we believed at once without analyzing, without observing properly. After studying and observing, when the mind is fully convinced, then we gain confidence. So the Buddha's senses always work according to this confidence. There is nothing to change. Always absolute truth, reality. Then the next one is mindfulness. Our senses always run here and there, jump here and there. We cannot fix our senses even for a few minutes. That is why the mind cannot relax. The mind is working through the senses. Senses cannot work without mind. The Buddha's senses are not like ours. Fixed mind and senses. At that time, no external or internal interference or disturbances. The mindfulness is there. If we can develop this mindfulness, not only in our religious activities, even in our day-to-day life, if we do things mindfully, we can do our work efficiently without making many mistakes. So the mindfulness is most important things in our life. Next one, calmness, samadhi. Our senses bring certain object, disturb the mind. If not, our subconscious mind projects certain ideas that we have accommodated earlier. If not, we create some imaginations in our mind. So, our mind had no chance to relax. All the while, day and night, even while we are sleeping, we disturb the mind. Subconscious mind disturbs the mind. So the calmness we can maintain when we develop mindfulness, train the mind to maintain this mindfulness, then during that time we can guard our mind. Because naturally we develop selfishness, jealousy, craving, enmity, intolerance in our mind. So we can avoid these evil forces when mindfulness is there. When once we disturb the mind through anger or jealousy or greed, you can see how this mind had to suffer mental disturbances. When that mind is disturbed, we can see the indication here, outward indication in our face, in our word, in our action. Through our word or our action, we indicate the nature of the mind. So, to maintain calmness, we have to train and tame this mind. That is the most important period in our life. Because when the mind is calmed, we don't create ideas, thoughts. Mental purity remains only at that time. Abhasyaramidang bhikkhave chitta panchako agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkilupa. Here the Buddha says, when the mind is in that stage, maintain calmness. At that time, this mind is pure. This mind is luminous. But later, when we allow the five senses to bring objects into the mind, the disturbances and mental pollution take place. But very seldom we get the chance to maintain calmness in our mind. So the Buddha's senses are working in that way. Of course, in his case, he had no problem because he has developed such a long period. This is the nature of his senses. Next one, energy, virya. When we got fed up, we give up our effort, our energy. We get frustration. But when once the Buddha determined to do something, that mental energy is never changed. Even before his enlightenment, he maintained this. So when he wanted to meditate under the Bodhi tree, to gain his enlightenment, this determination was there. What is that? I never get up from this place without gaining my enlightenment. It is far better for me to die here instead of going away from this place without gaining enlightenment. This is called mental energy that he developed. So after gaining his enlightenment, he got up from this place. So whenever he wanted to do something, some service, he used that energy, effort. He spent his 45 years to serve others with strong confidence and determination without wasting even 1 minute for unnecessary things. The next one is wisdom. This is called supreme wisdom. Supreme wisdom means clear vision which appear in the mind when the mind is pure, when there are no more dark clouds in the mind. We also gain wisdom. But in our wisdom, there are dark spots here and there. So our wisdom is not perfect. So the nature of the Buddha's wisdom is that it is perfect and never change. This particular characteristic is called Indriya Paro Pariyatti Jnana. Only the Buddha maintain this thing, but others only up to certain degrees, but not fully. When you take an Arahant or a Pacceka Buddha or another religious teacher, they too have developed their senses, but not up to this extent. Next one, the Dhamma. He observed this person's mind. Whether this person can understand what he is going to talk. What are the hindrances in his mind for him to understand? What sort of wrong concept and belief he is maintaining in his mind? What sort of wrong concept and belief he is maintaining in his mind? Whether this person has developed his mind to understand this kind of deep aspect of the Dhamma. There is nobody else in this world who can observe another person's mind up to that extent. Asaya anusaya jnana. That means he can understand all our weaknesses. How much we can understand or how much we can grasp. And what are the wrong beliefs we maintain in our mind. There are very interesting incidents to prove this. So one day, a group of people came to ask questions. Lot of dialogues sessions were there at that time. They were well-educated people. So, when the first person asked the question, the Buddha says, no, you better wait. He did not answer his question. Then the second person asked the question. He answered. Again, the first person, he saw impatience. He wanted to ask. So then I asked you to wait. Then the third person asked the question. He answered. He allowed all the others to ask these questions. He answered, but did not answer to this person, because he knew this person's understanding capacity is very poor. He allowed him to listen how he answered to all the other questions. Then he gained some sort of understanding. Then he answered the question, he understood. Because he knew at once, if he answered, he cannot understand. And there are many other questions the Buddha did not answer at all. Completely kept quiet. No answer. When they left the place, some other disciples, the monks, came and asked. They came and asked these questions, why you did not answer? Then he said, if I answered these questions, instead of gaining knowledge and understanding, they create more confusion, more misunderstanding. Because their knowledge, their understanding capacity is like this. The Buddha cannot change at once this. He has to develop his understanding capacity. Then he answered. He gave the answer to these disciples who could understand. Then he preached. After listening to few words, there are many stories in Dhammapada and various other books. Some people have attained the first stage of sainthood, second stage, third stage, fourth, and became arahant. But many others, they learned throughout their life, and still they could not gain anything. Because there is nobody to study their mental background. And there is another interesting incident. A monk who was given a wrong object for his meditation. He had been using his full effort day and night, but could not gain anything. When the Buddha came to know this, he got fed up with this meditation, he wanted to go back. Then the Buddha knew that he was given wrong medicine for his sickness, wrong object. Then what he did? He created a golden lotus flower. Asked him to concentrate. Then very easily he could concentrate without any disturbance. The Buddha is watching his mind. Then, by using his psychic power, the Buddha changed the color of the lotus petals into dark color. Now he started to think, oh, what a pity, such a beautiful golden lotus petals turn into dark color. How changes can take place. Uncertainty in everything. Now his mind is working according to this. Again, by using his psychic power, the Buddha created vibration to drop the petals of the lotus flower. Everything dropped. Now he is holding only the stalk. Again he developed further and further uncertainty, impermanency of life or anything that exists. This lotus flower, golden color, flowers at the beginning, so shining, but later become dark, again drop. Our life also like this. Any moment can change everything and collapse. He attained Arahanthood because the Buddha knew his mental background. He was dealing with gold during many of his previous births. He was a goldsmith. Gold is a very important object appealing to his mind. Then he could manage to concentrate. There are hundreds and thousands of incidents. That is what here Asa Anusaya Jnana means the wisdom the Buddha had to understand the nature of our mind, what we can understand, what we cannot understand, what are the difficulties we are facing to understand, and what we have done during our previous birth to gain this knowledge and understanding. Any other religious teachers, Arahantas also never gain this. Third one, Yamaka Mahapatiharya Jnana, miraculous power. When you study very carefully, there are many incidents where Buddha did not encourage his disciples to perform miracles, to influence people, to bring them into religion. There were some occasions where he condemned this kind of miracles. He could perform any kind of miracles in this world. There is a very peculiar story. A Brahma is not a human being who had the misconception that he is the only person in this world who could perform most powerful miracle in this world. So when he was holding such views, the Buddha visited him. He asked, "Oh, can you perform miracle?" He said, "Yes. There is nobody in this world who can challenge with me." Then he said, "All right, I am going to perform a very simple miracle." What is this? Now I am going to disappear and hide somewhere and ask the Buddha to find out where he is. What he did, he has gone the other side of the moon and hiding there. The Buddha did not go anywhere in searching where this person is. He used only his psychic power, and he is telling you, you are hiding behind the moon, you have to come down. Next time he said, okay, second time. Just like small children's play to me actually. All right, again he disappeared. He has gone under the bottom of the earth, this globe. Again the Buddha used his wisdom and he saw he is hiding there under the globe. He had to come out. Third time, give me another chance. Third time, again disappeared. He was hiding under the bottom of the great ocean. And they pointed out, there you are. You have to come out, surrendered. Now the Buddha says, my turn. So I am also going to perform a miracle. I am also going to hide. Try to find out. He said yes. So what he did, he transformed himself into the tiniest creature in this world and went and hid under the eye-lips here. But he doesn't know where the Buddha is. He's searching everywhere, all over the universe. Behind the sun and the moons and this and that, cannot find out. In the end he had to say, I'm sorry, I cannot find out. I don't know where you are. Then the Buddha said, what a great fool you are. You cannot see that I am in your eye. That means he can perform any kind of miracle. But he says, there is no real wisdom, spiritual development, mental purifications in these miraculous powers. For curiosity's sake, people can perform miracles. But there were many occasions he had to perform some miracles when he came to know, simply by talking or preaching, that he cannot convince them. This is one of them. Yamaka Mahapatiharya Jnana. This is the most difficult miracle. When he visited Kapilavatthu, his own town, his relatives still did not believe that he is a Buddha. He gained his enlightenment. He regarded him as an ordinary man. Then he knew, by telling them, explaining, they cannot understand and they never believe. So what he did, he performed these miracles for them to understand. What is this? Fire and water both come out from the same body. Upper part of the body, fire, and the lower part of the body, water. If not, upper part of the body, red color, and the lower part of the body, white color. But from the same physical body, one person cannot produce both at once, at the same time. That is the most difficult miracle. Having seen this, they realized that definitely he gained his enlightenment. Only for that purpose he performed. Another occasion, Angulimala, the bandit or the murderer, who wanted to catch and kill the Buddha. Purposely he went to tame this bandit. He is very violent, very dynamic young man. He knew simply by preaching and talking to him, he cannot tame him. He never listened to him. So what he did, he walked in the jungle where he was in the normal way and allow him to run to catch him. This is some sort of miracle. He runs after the Buddha. The Buddha walks in normal way, but he cannot come nearer to the Buddha. He runs and runs and runs and runs, cannot come near. The Buddha did not run. Now he cannot run anymore, so tired. Then asked the Buddha to stop. Then he knew, this is the time for me to talk to you. He said, I have stopped long ago. You are the one who runs. He could not understand. Then what does it mean? How can you say you have stopped? I saw you are walking, you did not stop. Or you cannot understand. Then he asked, you did not run, but walk. I try my best by running, come nearer to you. Why I could not come nearer to you? Then the Buddha said, do you know why you could not come nearer to me? Because you run. Again puzzling. He cannot understand this. I told you I have stopped long ago. That means I have stopped all the evil deeds, such as killing, because he is killing human beings. I have stopped long ago. I said, you runs, that means you are killing. You run in the samsara, wheel of existence, by doing this. That is the meaning. He is also a very intelligent young man. He understood. At once he understood. This is the technique. So he threw away his sword and paid respect. Can I follow you? Why not? So he carried him to the monastery and ordained as a monk. He is a murderer, killed nearly 1,000 human beings, later attained an arahant. This is the way how he has performed certain miracles to pave the way for people to be religious when he come to know by simply teaching or preaching that he cannot train at once. Later he preached, after training or taming. This method, this kind of miraculous power also can be found in Supreme Enlightened Buddha. He never performed any miracles or never encouraged his disciples also to perform any kind of miracle just to influence people to bring them into religion. Because they follow these people but no understanding, no spiritual development, no purity in the mind. So one day a disciple asked this question. All the other religious teachers talk a lot about their miracles, but you do not encourage your disciples to perform miracles. Can you tell me the reason why? The Buddha said, according to my teachings or my religion, the highest miracle is this. If any of my disciples can train a wicked man, a cruel man, to be a good man, to be a religious man, that is the real miracle to me. Here the Buddha's attitude. So the purpose of his mission is for people to be good, to be religious, to lead a harmless and noble life. Next one, Maha Karuna Samapatti Jnana, great compassion. Others also have compassion, kindness and compassion. There is difference between kindness and compassion. We develop our kindness when others are in trouble or difficulties, but not when they are normal. But compassion, we radiate our metta. Here compassion means metta. We radiate this metta to all those living beings, whether they are in trouble or not, whether they are normal or not, without any discrimination, whether they are visible or invisible, whether they are big or small, whether they are known or unknown, whether they are in this world or any other part of the universe. This is the nature of compassion. So kindness is very, very limited mental attitude. So the nature of the Buddha's compassion is such, there is no boundary, there is no limit. His compassion is not limited only for the human beings or all those living beings in this world. There are so many universes where there are living beings. Again, the whole universe divided into three. Kamaloka, Rupaloka, Arupaloka. There are living beings in this world. This is Kamaloka, humans and animals and some other living beings. And devas also. There are some other world systems where there are living beings. Only the physical body exists, but the consciousness is not active. In certain other places, only the mental energy remains, physical body is not functioning. Divided into three. So the Buddha's compassion is such. He extends this compassion towards each and every living being in this whole universe. But others develop their compassion or kindness only to their family members, cannot extend beyond that. If not only to their relatives or friends, if not only to their race or nationality, if not only to those who are in their country, but not to others. You can see the limit there. So the nature of the Buddha's compassion is not only for human beings or animals, but all forms of living beings who exist in any part of the universe. Next one, Sabbanyuta Jnana. Sabbanyuta means all-knowing. One who knows everything. We cannot understand many things because our senses are very limited. Our mind is very, very narrow. Our experience and understanding capacity is not advanced. So our knowledge is very, very limited. There is nothing here in this world or any other part of the world system or universe that exists to point out that the Buddha cannot understand this. He can understand everything. Remember, there were two occasions the Buddha explained to his disciples. One day when he was walking in the jungle, he collected dry leaves, only this much, and showed. Now you can see the limited number of leaves I am holding in my hand and the number of leaves in the whole jungle, isn't it? Yes. The Dhamma or the truth that I have revealed so far, only this much. The Dhamma that I understood, I realized, which I have not revealed yet, can compare to the leaves in the whole jungle. But they are not very important for you. The purpose of your understanding is to see the end of your suffering. So I have revealed only this much. I have shown the path for you to see the end of all your suffering. Another occasion, when he was walking on the beach of a river, he has collected this much of sand. And the same parable he says, the limited number of sand and the sand here in sea beach, you can see how much. The Dhamma that I have revealed so far, only this much. But they are the most important Dhamma that you have to practice. Others are not very important for you to see the end of your suffering. But he can understand anything that which exists in any part of the universe. That is called Sabbanyuta Jnana. Last one is Anavarana Jnana. Anavarana means there is no hindrances for him to understand whatever he wants to know. So when we are going to know something, we go on thinking and reading and discussing, still there are so many hindrances. We cannot go through these hindrances. But in the case of the Buddha, there are no hindrances whatsoever to obstruct for him to know anything that which exists in this universe. This is the nature of the Buddha's enlightenment, and these are the extraordinary characteristics in that Buddha's enlightenment. Only a Buddha possesses these 6 great qualities. Thank you. Akavatta Buddha Devanaga Mahintika Punjantam Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Loka Sasanang Ittavata Chamhe Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Devo Vassatu Kalena Sasya Sampatti Hetu Che Pito Bhavatu Loko Che Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko Idango Dati Nang Hotu Sukitahantu Nyatiyo Mina Punya Kammena Mami Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Tuhyao Nibbana Pattiya